The common perception what public has, germs causes disease. The moment we get cold, cough, sneezing or fever, we blame it as that germs is causing all the disease. So according to naturopathy, germs will never cause disease. Whenever there is a toxins accumulating in your body, germs multiply in your body to heat all the toxins. To remove all the toxins, germs will multiply. For example,
Now, viruses, does anyone ever hear about the cold or flu season? Okay, great advertising, great advertising. Okay, there is no cold or flu season. You have influenza on you all the time. You get viruses on you all the time, and it only has to do with a weakened immune system. Or does it? Now, the presence of an organism doesn't mean it causes illness. So how does this work? Well, let's look at the science way back when, because we're going to do another talk like this. Hopefully next week I'll have a chance to do it. But I want you to see how Pasteur was almost kicked out of France, okay, for wiping out the silk industry and wiping out the dairy industry. Okay, but we're going to go over and how you can't criticize them now. But let's look at bacteriologists. Now, we're looking in the mid-1800s, and they're looking at these diseases that are caused. And they just have this new invention of the microscope, and they're looking for animals or people that have died of a certain disease. And he developed a postulate to find out if the bugs that he was finding, the germs that he was finding, or microbes that you could find, that talk about, were the causative factor. Now, he discovered wound infections, certain bacteria in there, tuberculosis, conjunctivitis, cholera, number of other diseases. And he developed certain postulates that have to be enacted to make sure that that pathogen was causing the disease. And first, you got to find the same bug, okay, microbe in every case. Does that make sense? Okay, it would to me too. Okay, then you have to isolate that. So first you got to find the bug, and then you have to make it separate. Now, I just told you viruses can't be isolated. They have to grow in host tissue. Viruses can't be isolated. They have to grow in host tissue. But now for a bacteria, you can isolate it, okay, because these things grow in certain growth mediums, so you can separate it out. Now, once you identify a consistent pattern of disease, because if everybody in the front row had a cold, coughing, sneezing, is it all from the same pathogen? Could be, might not be, maybe, I don't know. Okay, so you got to find out. If everybody walks through a swamp and we're all bitten by a mosquito containing malaria, do we all get malaria? No. So it's not really the pathogen that causes this. And so when we're looking at Robert Koch, it has to be in every host, and then you grow it, you infect a host with it, a healthy host, you have to cause the disease, okay, and then when you cause the disease, then you can isolate it again. So we have certain parameters for bacterial infections, okay, and that you can identify. The problem is a lot of these, a lot of the things that you're looking at today, like human papillomavirus causing cervical cancer, that's never gone through Koch's postulate. You're looking at hepatitis, that's never gone through Koch's postulates. So there's a lot of diseases today that have not gone through the old theory of identifying the pathogen, infecting a healthy host, and then causing the problem. Okay, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, atopic diseases, hay fever, eczema, all of these things, cardiovascular diseases, all of these lessen if you have this communicating protein in your DNA that helps you adapt to the environment. Okay, abnormal measles, mumps, and rubella. So, the vaccines, you're getting a false protein injected in there, can damage the brain. Okay, now, immune system, how does it work? Look at the experts. Gary Fathom, professor of immunology and rheumatology. If a patient were to ask me, how's my immune system doing today? I would have no idea how to answer that. And I'm an immunologist. None of us can. We're messing with something. We're still going back to Beauchamp and Pasteur. And Beauchamp is now saying, is now more honored because it's not just the pathogen. But I mean, just common sense, for God's sake. Okay? You don't do the same therapy to everyone. You don't have the same medicine for everyone. You don't have the same reaction. Why? Because we're individuals. It is the terrain. Everybody here has different physical, chemical, or emotional stressors. It's not the pathogen. It's not the pathogen. Chair Stanford at Davis. It's a awful lot of moving parts. We don't know what the vast majority of them do or should be doing. These are the greatest immunologists on the planet. So what's caused? Genetics? Is your genetic just defective? You're just going to develop these diseases? Okay, you're weakened? Or are you genetically designed to thrive on this planet? That you got to take care of your terrain. You take care of your terrain. You take care of your body. You'll live to the full 120. You don't need to have fear of bacteria, fear of yeast, fear of funguses, fear of your genetics. It's genetic, by the way. Then can you name 5 people that don't have it? Because I get this shit all the time. Oh, bunions run in my family, or bunions don't run. Okay. Oh, inflammatory bowel disease again. You know, it's really bad. Okay. Can you name anyone in your family that doesn't have it? You know, it's just crazy. We're at a crossroads, and the crossroads are so great that your choices are being made for you. No longer do we have this open discussion between scientists. And next week, we're going to go more into the Pasteur Beauchamp at how if you were against Pasteur, you were against God. Okay. I mean, really, really crazy stuff like it is today. So we have to understand that science is always changing, always evolving. The end result is more beautiful than you could have possibly imagined. You're not being attacked. You're designed to live on this planet. You take these pathogens, and if you have healthy stress, healthy diet, nutrition, exercise, healthy social environments, you take care of your terrain, and I mean the mental, physical, and emotional terrain of your body, of your world, you survive and thrive on this planet. It's time to change. The allopathetic model is done, with 60% of our adult population having a chronic illness or disease, and the medical literature is saying, my God, it's not the disease, it's the terrain. 54% of our children have a chronic illness or disease. Is it the disease or is it the terrain? You betcha. Anyone that doesn't agree with me, I'll meet you in the parking lot. Okay. I mean, if you were working on these kids, wouldn't you want to fight for them too? Yeah. And I see it all the time. I mean, every day. Let's change this world. We're not going to change your terrain by giving you drugs. We're not going to change it in the positive. Health is a full expression of life. This means, is pain a clue to a problem? Or should we just take a Tylenol to get over it? You know, you drop a brick on your foot, it better friggin' hurt. Okay? If not, you got syphilis or diabetes. Okay? So pain is a real good thing for you. And when you look at these diseases, if these diseases can be affected in the positive, that's called reversing it by giving you fruits and vegetables. That means cancer, atherosclerosis, heart attacks, diabetes. All of these can help with some of the factors in these disease processes. It's not just eating vegetables and the cancer goes away, but it is one contributing factor. Why? Because the plants change the terrain.
Hey everyone, Dr. Mike here. I'm going to talk about a little thing that really makes me angry, and it's called the germ theory. Now, I think the germ theory is a bunch of BS, and I'll be honest with you. The reason I think it's a bunch of BS is the germ theory has been around since the 1860s. That's around 160 years. It's still a theory. If the germ theory was true, they would have proved it by now. It's a theory still. Let me tell you why the germ theory is wrong. We are around germs all day long. There's germs on our hands, there's germs on our tables, there's germs on everything we touch. If germs made us sick, we would be sick all the time. That is not the case. Our immune system is what dictates whether we're sick or not, because our immune system is what fights off those germs and doesn't allow them to become diseases inside of us. If the germ theory were true, all members of the same family would be sick at the same time. Now, we know that's not true because in a lot of families, one kid gets sick way more often than the other kid. Those kids are around the same germs all day long. Why aren't they both sick? Why don't they both have the same problem? But see, the germ theory perpetuates something that drug companies like. Because when they have the germ theory, they can treat the symptoms. They can go after the quote-unquote germ with antibiotics. And they can sell their Alka-Seltzer cold and flu medicines and their Tylenol cold and flu medicines and all of those things. Germs do not make you sick. Your immune system dictates whether you're healthy or not. So, the smart thing to do is, let's strengthen our immune systems. Let's go after the things that we know will make us stronger. Let's get adjusted. Let's let our kids get in the dirt and play and not have a sterile environment where they're never exposed to any germs and their immune system never has to work. Let's let our kids get sick when they're younger, get the little colds and flus and let their bodies fight it off, because if they fight things off, now they become stronger and they won't catch those things in the future. So get the germ theory out of your head, guys. Germs don't make you sick. Do I think we need to be clean? Of course. Do I think we need to sanitize things? Of course. However, the germ theory is still a theory 160 years later. Let's start thinking common sense. Common sense health means let's strengthen our immune systems. Let's do the things we know that can keep us healthy and make us healthy. Thanks, guys. I hope this helps.
Joined by Dr. Andrew Kaufman. You may have heard him on the Crow 777 live stream, and then Crow was smart enough to bring him back again, and then I was smart enough to reach out to him. Dr. Kaufman, how are you, brother? And I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you so much for your invitation. After getting familiar with your channel and your show, you've earned a lot of respect from me. And I have to say that I appreciate you talked about me yesterday, and you said something very important that really goes a long way, and this applies to your viewers as well, that don't trust what I say. Do your own research, confirm everything. When you said that you confirmed what I spoke about viruses on Crow, that just goes a long way. And, we all have a responsibility to be familiar and learn this information. And so it's really important that we check for ourselves so that we, only end up trusting the correct information.
I agree. And when I was listening to you talking, when I was listening to you on Crow's show, you mentioned Royal Rife. Now, I had done videos probably 6-7 years ago, and nobody really cared too much because it didn't apply to anything. But that's an amazing technology. And you mentioned that along with that that super heavy duty deep microscope. The name escapes me right now. I just walked in the door like I told you. You want to talk about that stuff at all?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. And I think it has some, quite a bit of relevance, actually. And Royal Rife, as I said before, is kind of known as the Tesla of medicine, a very brilliant guy. And he just was able to invent technology that was superior to anything else that was available and extremely useful. So he developed this microscope that had something like 30,000 times higher magnification than other microscopes that were available at the time. So it was really powerful and allowed him to see under the microscope these tiny little particles of cells they're known as protids or somatids. And these are actually the precursor or progenitor to many different microorganisms, including bacteria, fungi, and actually many pictures of what are allegedly called viruses are most likely actually these entities. And so what happens is these microzyma or protids, they're present in our cells. In fact, they're present in the cells of all living organisms, plants and animals. And when the conditions of an organism are such that there needs to be some cleanup and recycling efforts going on, and this is most common in a disease state, but also can happen as the body renews itself on a cyclical basis, that those precursors bud out of our cells, and then they go through a cycle where they become more and more differentiated and developed into the bacteria that's appropriate to go and clean up that mess. And this is, just like things happen in nature. We're all familiar with this when there's a dead animal or a dead plant on the ground, that all these microorganisms come and take care of it. They turn it into, it's a basic nutrients and elements, and then it becomes part of the soil, the earth, and allows more life to grow. Same thing that happens when our bodies die. And there's no need for any outside bacteria because the bacteria is already in the organism to undergo this process. So Royal Rife was able to visualize these elements, the protids, budding out of the cells at a very high resolution such that he could observe their behavior. And this microscope, different from the microscopes used in medicine today, which only allow you to visualize generally dead fixed tissue. So they basically harvest the tissue and then apply chemicals to it that like formaldehyde and then dies. And so you can't observe any of the behavior of the cells or organisms through the microscope, but this was very distinct with Royal Rife. And so he noticed that these little protids vibrate at a certain frequency, right? And I think I didn't mention on the other show, but this is really related to one of the 7 hermetic principles of vibration, that all beings vibrate and that there's constant motion. And this is a really important principle of life. And he observed this. And what he was able to do is using some electronics that he could measure the frequency of the vibration. And he postulated that the frequency actually represents the disease state. And so once he was able to determine the frequency for a given patient, and I want to remind you that that wouldn't be possible without the powerful microscope. So once he was able to do that and determine the frequency, then he could use other devices that would generate electromagnetic radiation and would basically at the same frequency of the disease in that given patient. And after several brief sessions of applying this, he was able to result in the cure of a disease. And this was true not just for diseases that we would commonly know or think would be infectious, but also for other diseases like cancer, because these microorganisms, the cleanup crew, is essentially involved in cleaning up all these diseases.
So they've documented that this is just germ theory. All the things they come up with to tell us it can be transferred by human transfers from one to another is absolute bullshit. I mean, we're getting down to some very interesting conversations now because we're starting to deal with energy healing, which is really, really important for us to take the transition from the physical realm to the mind, body, spirit realm or spiritual science. So here you have a healthy cell and you have a damaged cell, and the damaged cells weaken our immune system. It's pretty basic there. By biomagnetic healing, using subtle energy vibrational universal healing, we can bring the cells back into what's called homeostasis, where the pH is balanced between 7 and 7.3 in an alkaline and acidic state. As I've said many times, and Dr. Luis Garcia and others have said, we are so out of balance in such an acidic state, we've been pushed out of homeostasis. And you can see here, when alignment using biomagnetic healing protocols, it brings our Ka or our Chi or our Prana. We don't have a word for subtle energy healing in Western medicine. I'm going to call it duh, because we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And that's why they want to stress that, it has to be transferred from humans to humans and your breath can transfer it. That's just a bunch of BS. And we are coming back now to the understanding that all life is energy. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. The cells in the body require electricity and magnets. When the cells drop their magnetic charge to a certain level, they become sick. The first sign of illness is usually pain. The body can heal almost anything with proper nutrients and electrical and magnet charges. Not just electrical, or magnetricity. This is where the whole cell structure comes in and the pH balance of using biomagnetism works. And this is from Dr. Randolph Stone from the 80s, showing how magnetic currents and their proper anatomical relations view of overall sweep and polarities. And you can see the negative charges come down through our body on one side, positive comes through the other. And so we're out of balance. We're out of vibrational energy, energetic balance. This is when the pathogens can enter, the viruses and the funguses and the parasites. All of these can enter into our bodies and make us weak. And so we can learn again by using biomagnetic healing and protocols to bring these magnetic fields back into homeostasis. You can see when there's no magnetic field in our blood, that the cells are out of alignment. Separation of blood cells increases the surface area, which allows cells to pick up more oxygen and release more energy. And so with the 5G contraptions being used at 60 gigahertz to cause these illnesses and injuries, biomagnetic healing is a critical answer to our healing ourselves and protecting ourselves from the Wi-Fi radiation that's going to be thrust upon us on much greater levels over the next few weeks. And many of you know about Carillion photography, how they can take a picture of your energy field, your aura. But how many of you know that there are many auras, 9 different energy fields outside of your body that emanate from your vibrational frequencies? There's the causal body, the celestial body, the etheric body, the astral body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the etheric body and physical body. All of these are being dealt with biomagnetism on the energetic plane. So what are they saying we're having problems with? We're getting nervous. Our nervous system holds the key in the body's incredible potential. Do you have the nerve to step up to what's going on and fight this lie, this psyop that germs are spreading dis-ease? It's all a big lie. Do you have the nerve? Well, how does the nervous system work? Well, when your mind says, I've got a pain, then you tell your nervous system to go down and send blood to help with the inflammation, or to send a healing to close up the scar. It's the nervous system that makes your fingers move. It's the nervous system that tells your hand to bring your hand to your mouth to feed you. We're dealing with energy, folks, and we got to start focusing spiritual energy, mind, body, and spirit. And all of this is making us focus on that we're energy beings, and we have the incredible potential to heal ourselves using this biomagnetic protocol. I'm doing it. I'm seeing it every day. As Rudolf Steiner said back in the 1920s, when spiritual knowledge is absorbed, healing forces are also absorbed. Spiritual science is an elixir of life. Though it cannot be proved by argument, the proof will be seen when it is assimilated, then applied to life, and health follows. This is what I am seeing, Dr. Luis Garcia is seeing, the hundreds and thousands of people that are learning self-healing biomagnetics are learning as well. We can all do this. The ancients called it Chi. The ancients called it Prana. The ancient Egyptians called it Ka. It is the life force of all of us that lives inside of us. Frequency, energy, and vibration are the keys to the universe. Let's start learning these keys, folks. We're all frequency beings. We're all experiencing mind, body, and spirit. Let's stop worrying about so much the physical plane and just acknowledge that we're spiritual beings that cannot be destroyed. Our souls are eternal if we choose to accept that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience and aren't going anywhere. And this is the great fight. So in the Western world, we don't have a word for this energy frequency that they have in China and Japan and Egypt and all the ancient cultures when they were talking about this life force. So again, the Chinese have Qi, the Japanese have pranas, the Vedic, and the Egyptians are Ka. But in the Western world, we've got to come up with a term, and my term I'm coming up with is duh. We're all spiritual beings. They cannot destroy us if we decide we're not going anywhere. So I offer my services here. We have hands-on healing, remote healing, self-healing assistance, self-healing through a 6-hour webinar I did with MP4 where you can learn to do it yourself, which is my preferred way of getting it. These prices are negotiable based on what you can afford. I'm not going to do it, just give it away for free. I need to support myself as well, but we can negotiate the price as well. And if you want to do the remote healing, we can deal with many issues. We're dealing with several people a day and getting results. So if you're interested, just contact me at my email, jwlpeace@gmail.com. Here's towards being well healed, folks. We can do this one by one. And since everybody's being to stay at home, how beautiful it will be if we all learn to self-heal and we can start healing one another in our communities, in our homes, in our relationships. All right? Go hug one another. Show you're not afraid. Show the germ theory is still a theory. Go out and love people, folks. They need it. They're in fear, their anxieties, depression, loneliness, all these things.